Hey there, anime fans. Just wanted to let you know that due to some scheduling issues, we had to change. We originally were going to do Death Note, and as excited as I was to do that, we didn't have the time. We are actually going on vacation. So we did Erased instead. Erased is this great show, only 12 episodes long. Give it a watch before you give us a listen because it is so good and so worth our time. When we return, we'll be doing Showbits, which we mentioned in the show. After that, we'll be doing Death Note, and we wanted to make sure that we did it justice. Thanks, and we'll talk to you soon. Hey there, anime fans. Hey there, anime fans. Welcome back to Ghost in the Cloud, your anime podcast, where each week we discuss news, TV, and movies. My name is John. With me is my co-host Bridget.
Hey, everybody.
And this week we are talking Erased.
Erased.
As we do every week, before we get into it, we're going to bring you some anime news.
So our news for this week... one of my favorite shows has finally started its third season, Food Wars. I've name dropped the show a lot, sorry. There is a lot being released this month. This is like the month of anime, so what are you most excited for this month? One of the movies or the shows coming out, a lot of anime games. It's so much. So we'd love to hear what you are most excited for this October. The other news is about our podcast. We are probably not having an episode next week because we're going on vacation and I'm very excited about it. But we promise we're coming back. So our following episode will be in 2 weeks. Sorry, guys.
All right, well, that's it for news this week. On to Word of the Week.
Word of the Week. So this is a word that was mentioned a lot in the show and I didn't know what it meant. So I thought it would be appropriate. If you guys are going to watch the show, I'm going to bring you the definition of this word, yokai. So every once in a while, the main character would call his mother yokai. It basically refers to like a supernatural monster or being. Sometimes it could be used interchangeably with Mononoke or Ayakashi, but it's really, anytime the mother does something that makes you think she's like psychic or something, she's just so sharp and on the ball, he's like, yokai. Calls her like basically a monster.
You get an idea of why she's so sharp because she used to be a reporter.
Yeah.
A journalist at one point, so.
She must have been one heck of a reporter. Yokai.
Well, that's our word of the week. So, Erased. It was originally based off the manga known in Japan as Boku Dake ga Inai Machi. Literally, the town without me.
You nailed that.
Thank you. I'm feeling good today. It's a Japanese fantasy thriller seinen manga series written and illustrated by Kei Sanbei and originally began in 2012. The anime adaptation is by A1 Pictures and aired on Fuji TV's Noitamina programming block between January 26th and March 25th, 2016.
Yeah, so it was just over a year and a half ago it came out.
And believe it or not, a live action film was released in March 2016.
No way.
So quick synopsis. Satoru Fujinuma is a struggling manga artist who has a very unique ability. This ability allows him to travel back in time several seconds in order to prevent accidents and even deaths. It's not something he can control, but does his best to use it to help others. As incidents around town begin reminding Satoru of a childhood trauma he's forgotten, he finally begins to question what caused his ability to surface and whether or not it's powerful enough to change the past. Then one day, he's sent back farther than he's ever gone.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right off the bat, Satoru is incredibly relatable. A guy down on his luck. He's not like a bad dude in any way. His life is pretty normal. It's pretty simple.
Yeah,
except for this ability.
He's a starving artist. Like, he's trying to make it as a manga artist. Although he is a little more recluse than the average person, he doesn't really seem to have friends. And, he has his mother that he sees once in a blue moon. He's kind of recluse.
Like I said, he is down on his luck. So I think because of that, he kind of keeps people away. One day, his mom shows up at his apartment and decides that she's going to stay there for a few days to sort of just help him out, see what's going on. And right in the first episode, you get a glimpse of this ability that he has, and this ability sends him back in time, usually a few seconds, and he sort of instantly is looking for something that's off in the world.
Yeah, it's weird that not only does he not have control over it, he doesn't know why he's gone back these few seconds in the first place. So as soon as he gets this weird feeling, and then he usually sees like a blue butterfly, he knows that he's being sent back a few seconds, and he has like only moments to figure out what's wrong, what he has to prevent. And he even says, like, he's like, I know I don't even need to get involved, it has nothing to do with me, but because he has this power, he does feel that
he feels responsible.
Sense of responsibility, like he has the opportunity to help other people, which is, for someone very recluse, he does reach out and change a lot of lives. And so he we got to see him avoid a car accident that would have killed a child, which is crazy.
I know, and the way the show starts off, he's already had this power for some time. You don't really get an idea of when it started, but you do know that he's figured out why he has it to a degree. Like, he knows he knows when it happens, something terrible is about to happen, and that's why he's constantly looking for, okay, what is it out of place? And like Bridget said, in the first instance that we see it, a driver had actually had a heart attack at the wheel. It would have caused the death of a child as well.
Yeah, you see a kid starting to go
of course, he
on a
wasn't able to save the driver, but
the driver
he was
really
able to
dead.
save the child with this ability. His mom shows up at his home to try and take care of him because he got into a little bit of an accident, and as he saved this child himself,
he got a little banged up.
And he doesn't really want her there. He's kind of, like Bridget said, he's a loner, and
he doesn't want to take help from other people or inconvenience anyone. It's just meh. So
one day they're out shopping, and the butterfly passes again. He's looking around, and he even asks his mom, "Hey mom, look around. Is anything out of place for you to seem to you?" And she's not sure what he's talking about, but she takes a look, trusting her son. The mom catches this guy with a young girl walking towards a car, and the guy realizes he's being watched, and he actually leaves the girl. And you find out that little child was about to be abducted.
Yes.
And although he didn't save the child, the mom there did. And the mom is she's a really cool character. Her name is Sachiko. She's like the mom of moms. Like, she's like the best mom
really
I think
awesome.
I've ever seen in an anime. Like, she's
One
super
thing
cool.
That we've said when we've watched a lot of animes is, where are the parents in this show? Like, why aren't the parents involved in this at all? And, I feel like in a lot of shows, even when it's, about children, the parents are not a part of the show whatsoever. Yeah. And in this show, it's nice and refreshing to see this really strong role model, this mother that is, she's not only a good mother, but she really, helps on a critical level. Yeah. She's sharp.
This is a really great anime because it's so different from the majority of ones that are out there. Like, this is about, oh my god, why isn't it recording? Okay, it's recording.
I'm like, don't scare me, not after last week.
So what I like about this even further is Satoru, he's 29. He's not a teenager. It's not like in every other anime where it's like a late teenager guy who's the main character.
Prime, they look nice. Yeah,
he's an established adult who's having a run of bad luck. Okay, so one day his mom's hanging out with him staying at his place for a few days. And she has just a bad feeling. And she's like, something was really off about that
scenario.
That whole scenario earlier in the day.
And her deductive reasoning is really on the ball. She's the way that he looked over at her when she was watching this guy with this little girl. It wasn't just, I'm being watched. It was almost, he covered his face a little bit with his hat
and sunglasses.
As if, hey, this woman that's watching me would recognize me. This is somebody that she probably knew at one point because the way he covered his face.
Yeah, and both Satoru and Sachiko, his mom, could totally be detectives. They're so observant of what's going on.
Yeah, because this all happened in just a moment. So that's when she started to connect the dots. Well, if this is somebody that I may have known, then who would it be? And she also said one thing that kind of gives us a very vague idea of how long Satoru's had this ability. She's like, that's funny. When you were a kid, you said something similar. When he asked her to look around, is there something wrong? Is there something out of place? He had said it once when he was a kid. So it happened sporadically as a child as well. So that's when she tried to connect it to that time.
And just because we didn't say before, spoilers for this show.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Spoilers.
It's very important to the whole plot. So one day, Satoru's on his way home, and as he's climbing the stairs to his second-story apartment, a man in a hat and suit walks by him, and he takes notice of him to a degree, and he's just like, I've never seen you before, but he doesn't stop. He sort of keeps going, and then he turns the corner and realizes that his door is open. And he walks towards his door, opens the door, and finds that his mother has been stabbed, and she's already dead. She's already dead. The neighbor comes in and believes that Satoru is the one who killed her.
You see your parent on the ground with a knife in them. You're going to run over there crying. You're going to, hold them. And so immediately his hands are already covered in blood, and neighbor witnesses. They're screaming, the police are coming, and he panics and he runs.
He's running. He works part-time as, I think it's like a pizza delivery place. He has this friend, Ari, and he's on the run. People are now looking for him. Like, things have escalated incredibly quick.
Yeah, he's, now wanted for murder.
Yeah, he's wanted for murder. Like, his friend, even, people he trusts are turning him in. And, he doesn't hate them for it. He understands that, okay, I would probably do the same thing in your position. You shouldn't... I probably shouldn't have run to begin with. But Ari, this late teenager, I believe, she kind of looks up to him. She sees him as someone, she respects.
Yeah, Adi is awesome.
And she believes him. She's like, you can't possibly have done this.
Yeah, because she actually got to have a meal with him and his mother the night before, right? And got an idea of the bond that they had, their relationship, that, they have a healthy mother and son. And they're both good people. And she's also a really good cook. Which, not relevant, but Aidi, she said something that really resonated with him, is that, there was a time in her life when one of her family members really needed to be believed and understood, and he didn't get that, and it caused a divorce. And so she said that, I'm going to believe you, not necessarily because I know you well, but because you're a good person and you deserve my faith. I will believe you. This is what you don't
have to ask for it either.
Yeah,
so it's different to have someone ask for belief.
Yeah, he didn't even have to ask her to believe him. She just gave it to him, and that was really something that really helped him in this really hard point in his life.
Ultimately, the police catch up to him.
Yeah.
And he's arrested. At that point, his ability kicks in, and he's sent back to a time much further than he's ever gone.
Oh, yeah.
Back to his childhood, his 5th grade, I believe it was?
5th grade.
The reason for this is because that potential kidnapping is related to something that happened in his childhood. There was this girl, Ko, who in his town was murdered. She was a classmate, someone that he never really knew. But he blamed himself as a kid, because he would see her on the way home from school, and she'd always be by himself. And he's just like, if I just asked her to walk home with me that day,
it could have prevented the kidnapping.
She'd be alive.
And
so he sets out as a kid now. This 29-year-old guy who's had all the
of a 5th grader.
He's now put into a body of his 5th grade self, and he's just like, I have to remember back then. I have to remember the sequence of events. I have to change things. So he befriends
Kaio's disappearance, she was the first of 3 in that neighborhood. She wasn't even the only one that was kidnapped,
So he sets out on this journey to prevent the kidnappings and murders of these characters, and he befriends them. You find out these characters have their own struggles. Her mom is very abusive to her, beats her and stuff,
which is why she stays to herself, keeps herself, walks home alone, and why she was a
really
potential victim.
Intense and sad.
Yes.
Satoru actually fails the first time around. He thinks he's done everything he could, but all he did was push it back a day. When he comes back to, he realizes that, he's still in trouble. He's still gonna be arrested. And he's just like, I gotta go back one more time.
Yeah.
I have to figure out how to do it because I know I can save this girl. And he goes back again. And the show's very short. It's only 12 episodes.
12 episodes.
It's
and yet it's
such
got
a good, solid
it's
story.
It's a solid show. The story is really well done. And for only 12 episodes, which is shorter than half the length of the shows we normally watch. Usually they're 26 episodes. That seems to be the standard right? 24 to 26 episodes. This show is like, I think, more solid than most shows we've seen. Even the great shows, like the good ones, the classic ones. It's just very well rounded. It's very thought out.
Now, from what we've recently read is that it does deviate from the manga, which we have not read. I am interested to see, maybe I'll pick that up as my next manga, see what the differences are, because the show is great. I have one gripe with the entire show. Yeah. And I'll get to that later.
But, is that what you mentioned to me before? Who ends up with who?
No, alright, I got 2 gripes with the show.
Oh, come on.
But anyway, Satoru as a kid now, he brings in his friends sort of into the fold.
Which is something he's never done before.
Right.
Like, keep in mind, when the show first started, when he was 29 years old, you get this vibe that he's never really opened up to anybody. He's a loner. He keeps to himself. He doesn't really have friends. He barely keeps in touch with his own mother, who's good person. And now for the first time he's like, you know what, Kenya, he talks to his classmate, I am gonna let you into the fold. I'm gonna tell you what's going on, and I'm gonna let you help me. And he starts to change himself, not only just the timeline, but he's starting to change his own self.
Kenya is a little creepy because of how smart he is.
He's very smart.
He's
for
incredibly
perceptive.
That's the perfect word. He has other friends who are great, but they're just normal kids.
Yeah,
you know?
This guy, he's not far behind Satoru's mother. Like, the two of them are the most perceptive characters in the show.
And you follow Satoru as he goes through that couple weeks of when all these things happened back in the 5th grade. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a character called June, who's this older kid. I think maybe he's late teens or early 20s.
22.
He's actually blamed for these murders and these kidnappings, but he's always denied it. He's never said. Yeah. He's always said it was never me.
As, somebody who is like just a little slow, but very, very kind person is what Satoru described him as. And he made paper airplanes and would just fly them in the park, and he would just show the kids how to fly them and maybe help them with whatever games they're playing. Like, just, he was more of a child himself, like a little slow, but really good. And Satoru always swore he was innocent. And June, up until like present day, always swore his innocence, like never admitted to any murders. He just was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, and you find out that the person setting everything in motion, the bad guy. He is incredibly smart.
Very smart.
It's scary how smart he is. And the only reason Satoru really is able to outdo him is because of the fact that he's lived through this already. Mm-hmm. And he knows what's going to happen. Fortunately, Satoru prevents the killings and the kidnappings.
Yeah, just befriending the
He also helps Kaio getting out of this abusive mother, like away from her abusive mother. Yeah. And it's something kind of amazing for like a kid to take on. Granted, he's 29-year-old trapped in a 11-year-old, I guess, 12-year-old body. He's going to these extremes, and it's such like an intense show because he has to backtrack to, okay, it happened on this date. So how do I change the things from this date? And then like, okay, if I change this, how does this affect everything going forward? What he does,
next victims.
He ends up saving the next victims. One of his friends, actually, Hiromi, who's this boy who was mistaken for a girl.
The killer actually chose Hiromi so that the public would believe he was chosen because he was mistaken for a female.
To throw
everyone off. But really, the killer knew full well that Hiromi was a boy. The killer knew full well exactly, what he was, and did it just again, like, because he's so smart. Nobody ever suspected him after all these years.
All right, so the big spoiler of the show, and this is actually my first gripe. The main bad guy is the only possible option for a bad guy. That is my problem. It is the teacher, Yashiro.
I guess they didn't give you a lot of options.
The teacher comes across as this really nice guy. He's always willing to help people. But the second he came on screen and started talking, I'm like, I don't trust this guy. There's something about him. I don't trust him. Bridget tried to throw me off. I was just like, nope, I don't trust him. I don't trust him.
I knew it was going to happen, but... I was like, oh, but that's the teacher. He helped Kaio get into custody.
He is a great villain because he is so unhinged to the degree that he can play a normal person.
Yeah, very, very well done.
It's
like he
it's
acts
kind of
so
scary
sane
because
and
like
so good.
I know I feel 100% that there are people like this in the real world, and it's terrifying. And that's why he's a good villain. The problem with the show is the fact that he's the only possible villain.
Yeah, you know what? This show, it only has so many characters in it, and you see background people, but they don't introduce them. And there's not a lot of male adults in the show, is there?
Right.
Except for maybe a colleague of Satoru's mother.
June's father.
Which you don't really, I don't think you even see him, really. Do you
may see him once or twice. I don't think he has any lines.
You don't even see him talk.
But he's also a suspect in these murders.
But, like, the show doesn't introduce you really to this character, so you don't even, like, consider it. There's really no other option. If they had added a couple more male adult characters, or even female characters, it didn't have to be a male, it would have thrown you off a little more, because Yashido really did do an amazing job acting the part, like, the good teacher. I mean, he's an elementary school teacher, and he himself, Satoru guessed was, like, his current age he figured he was around 29 years old. He was very kind, very considerate. Whenever Satoru ran to him about Kaio's position, he said, I've been on top of it. I'm contacting child protective services. We're trying to get her out of there. Like, he's really, like, he's been almost like he actually was a help at one point. He did help get her into custody with her grandmother. Honestly, if they had added 2 more characters, maybe 1 or 2, you probably wouldn't have thought of him.
Even, and he's doing these nice things. And the whole time I'm just like, nope, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, nope, I don't trust him. I'm like, but he's so good. Look at what he did. So, nope.
Yashiro actually figures out Satoru is onto him. Mm-hmm. Like, he's just like, how does this kid, this 11-year-old,
he was
keep
pissed.
figuring out my, like, game plan? Like, how does he do it? Yashiro, being the bad guy, gives himself away purposely, and he attempts to drown Satoru.
Yeah, he straps him, he puts him into the passenger seat of his car, but he rigs the seatbelt so that he can't unbuckle it. And then he has the car just drift into a lake. Just as he's about to sink, Satoru screams, I know your future. And it haunts Yashido after that, because Yashido basically accused him of, like, knowing the future, knowing what's going to happen, because there was no other way he could have been on top of his moves like that. He was able to prevent every abduction that he had planned. Pretty terrible, but Satoru was in a coma for 15 years.
15 years. He lost 15 years of his life.
He wakes up almost the same age he was at the beginning. It was 25 instead of 29. The oldest time, Yashido is still free and not suspected, but haunted by that one line, like, I know your future. And it's the only reason why he lived in his coma and why
and you find out that the teacher actually kind of took care of him at some points while he was in his coma. Like, he would shave him and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's funny to think of.
This killer grew this bond to this kid because the kid was like an equal to him. Like, he knew how to predict his moves. He found it like almost like an intense, irresistible game of chess. Like, he just had to know what was going to happen next.
Yeah, or what Satoru said, which was really observant of him. He's like, Yashido, the only reason why I'm alive is because I'm the only person in this world that knows who you really are. Like, I'm the only person who knows the real you, and you can't live without that.
And he sets him up. And Satoru comes to. He goes through physical therapy, like getting his strength back because he has atrophy in his legs.
Yeah.
His mom was there the whole time taking care of him.
Oh my god, for 15 years.
Best mom ever.
His mother worked his muscles, like pushed on his legs, stretched his muscles, kept his body active for 15 years.
As much as she could.
So that he would not atrophy too much. That he would be ready to go when he woke up. And she had such confidence that he would wake up one day. Like, that dedication, 15 years to take care of your son and not just let him lay there, but to, like, physically work his body every single day is that is true love. And that's true, like, that's like a bond that you don't see a lot. And she was right. And if it wasn't for his mother, he would not be able to walk for months. It would have taken him so long to get up.
And when he came to, he actually had memory loss too because of the drowning. He had some amnesia. Fortunately, he was able to regain his memory, and him and his friends who he confided in, and his mom who he confided in, they set out this plan to capture him because at this point, the statute of limitations on all of those murders and kidnappings that he's done, Yashiro's done this in other towns, other places. It expired, so they had to catch him in the act of something.
A new crime.
And they do catch him in attempted murder of Satoru, as well as a young character at the hospital that he's staying at. Mm-hmm. It's so good. Like, every twist and turn in this is great. Because now he's 25, things have transpired. Life has changed a lot because of the events. For one, Kaio is an adult now. Like, she's lived.
The moment that he saw Kaio as an adult for the first time, like, his eyes just filled up with tears. He's never seen Kaio as an adult, going back and forth from 29 to 11.
What sparked his memory.
Yeah, it definitely, I think it helped, but he's never seen her as an adult. She's always, like, whenever he was 29 years old, she was dead. She had died when she was 11. And for the first time, he sees her not only just an adult, but married to someone he went to school with, and holding an infant.
Friends,
and holding a baby, like, she has a family, and she's an adult. And she even, like, one of the first things she said was, I'm so sorry. I felt almost guilty being happy when you're laying here like this. And the reason why I'm okay, I'm alive, is because of you. And it's crazy to think about that he wakes up, he was asleep for 15 years, and yet he has more friendships and relationships at this moment than when he did when he was 29 at the beginning of the show, and alive and awake the whole time.
What's fortunate for his power actually allowed him to remember his original first 29 years. Mm-hmm. So although he was in a coma from 11 to 25 in the second sort of timeline, I guess you could say, he does have the intelligence of a 29-year-old.
Yeah.
At that point. He doesn't have to go through school. He could graduate if he needed to graduate. So even though he was
asleep all that time, he did, in a lifetime, he did live those years. So it wasn't so terrible. It's not like he didn't get to experience his 20s or anything like that. It's pretty wonderful that, he, in the first timeline, he was so recluse. He had no friends, and yet the few weeks that he spent in the 5th grade reaching out to those classmates
changed his
and
life.
Helping those 3 kids that would have died, those people stuck by his side the 15 years that he was asleep. Like, he made such, like, great bonds and friendships that he wasn't just saving 3 other people, he was also saving himself.
Always good to do a good thing.
Yeah,
and be nice to people.
He had the power to just reach out there and help those people. And there's something that Kenya had said to him in class one day. He's like, I had noticed too that Kaio was being physically abused. Like, I saw the bruises on her.
But I just assumed,
like, I'm just a kid. I can't do anything. And then you just swooped in and just saved her like it was nothing. And it, like, I want to be a superhero too. I want to help you. Like, anyone can help anybody.
This show is so good. Like, it's so well done, so put together. It's a start to end complete story. There's no loose ends in my opinion. Granted, I kind of wished Kaio would end up with Satoru, but I understand why
he was asleep for 15 years. She moved on. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, he does remember Irie, who he eventually meets again in his life, which is nice. Okay, that was the
last tie. So Irie, they worked together at this pizza delivery service when he was 29, but obviously when he wakes up in a coma after 15 years, Irie doesn't know him. It's nice. So it shows him establish a manga career. And the one thing that was holding him back before is that he didn't really put anything personal into it. He didn't give it any really deep meaning.
It's like
he
didn't believe in himself.
Yeah, or he had like a bubble around himself. He didn't want to dig too deep. So finally, after everything he's uncovered, after everything he's accomplished, he's kind of peeled back the layers, and he's able to make like a really deep manga that everyone can relate to. And he has an anime version coming out, which he was being congratulated by. So he's reached that new level that he couldn't before when he was a starving artist, and and now he's starting to make a name for himself. That must take time. So you figure after he's woken up, it was probably a couple years,
Right, yeah.
So he's probably closer to that 29-year-old age, and Irie bumps into him. At the very last moment of the show, they kind of just have a moment, kind of see it wrap up. Every last tie is kind of come together, and you see Irie and Satoru meet finally, really for the first time in this lifetime, and it makes me happy. Like, I hope they end up together. That would make it perfect.
I can't stress enough how much I liked this show. The
Yeah.
music is awesome.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
I love the
music.
intro and outro music. It's so great.
So the intro, the band is Asian Kung Fu Generation, and I've heard of them before. It was recommended to me by big social media websites because I listen to a lot of anime music. They're like an alternate rock band based in Japan, and to hear one of their tracks, like an opening song for this anime, would make me happy. They're a good band.
Yeah, it was super cool. We recommend it. Google them because you'll probably, if you love anime music, you'll definitely love watching and listening to them. What's interesting is Netflix announced in March 2017, this past couple of months ago, that it's planning to create a live-action web drama adaptation of the manga series, which will air this coming winter. The drama series is set to cover the manga fully and not deviate from the source material, apparently like the anime and the live-action film currently. Now, this is interesting because Netflix just did Death Note. Mm-hmm. And it was not good. So for them to actually stick to this, I think because this is a much more real story in the sense like child abuse, murder, thriller, like it's very grounded. Now you do have the one sort of science fiction ability to it where you can travel through time to a degree, but although it's like a major part of getting the show moving, it doesn't really change the show at all.
No.
You know, and I'm actually really interested in seeing how this comes out because it's only 12 episodes, so it could probably be fairly simple, especially if Netflix does like an 8-episode thing on it. I think this would be really cool to watch. I just hope they cast it correctly.
Yeah, I have my fingers crossed for this.
Problem is you're working with kids and you never know how kids are going to be.
Oh, stop. Harry Potter's
They're
phenomenal.
English.
Those were great.
They're better than us.
Don't say that. It doesn't matter where they're from. No,
America.
you can. There are some amazing child actors out there, so I have confidence that this will be great. I mean, the anime, even if it's not on the ball, the anime it's fantastic. I don't really have a complaint about it. I can't think of anything I have an issue with it other than having maybe adding a couple other characters to throw off who the killer could be. But otherwise, it's a perfect show, I think. In my opinion.
It's so good, guys. You have to watch it, and you can find it on Crunchyroll.
Yeah, that's where we watched it, because, I find Crunchyroll to be the best for the newer stuff, and again, it's only a year and a half old. It's a baby anime, and it's still on there, so give it a listen, and you don't need to pay for Crunchyroll to listen to it. You just gotta deal with the commercials. So this is the moment where we usually have Cosplay Corner, because it's such a new show, and it's mostly just children in the show.
Yeah, and it's basic clothing. Difficult. It's like nothing
it's just regular
out.
kids' clothes, so I don't expect there to be a whole lot of people cosplaying this, but there was one that did stand out. It was, it was a girl in Japan that did Kaio pretty terrifically with the jacket and the scarf, and she even posed outside in the snow. So we did retweet that for you, but we don't know their original Twitter account to give them a shout out, but it was really well done. So
check out our Twitter to take a look at that. You could also get in touch with us by emailing us at gitcanime@gmail.com.
Yeah, you're stealing my stuff, John. So also we're on SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, Google Play. We're on Stitcher now, and we are on Instagram. I just, if I find something new to add to it, I will do it. I'm trying to add as much as possible, but you just look for GITC Anime on any of these social medias and we will pop right up. And then also don't forget, we're on Patreon. Find our Patreon and support us, but you will be rewarded immensely with wonderful perks.
Yeah, so bonus episodes, bonus content. All right, guys. Well, thank you to our patrons. Thank you to our listeners. We do appreciate you guys coming back every week. We hope you like the show. Please let us know what you think.
Reviews.
I would love to know if anybody else instantly knew it was the teacher. You know what I'm saying? I knew it was the teacher.
I'll be honest, when I first watched it, I didn't see that. Because, it just, the child's trust in a teacher,
That's exactly what
they're overlooked. You wouldn't consider it. And he was so nice. He was so good. And, God damn it. But, if anyone else has seen this new show and loved it and wants to share something about it, reach out to us.
All right. Thank you, Anthony, for our theme song. And thank you to our patrons again. When we return next time, we'll be doing Showbits.
Yeah, Showbits. Okay.
It's something.
It's okay. This Showbits is a classic. It's one of like the first, I want to say 3 shows I watched when I got into anime, and this came out in 2002. It's been around a while. I am a big fan of Showbits, but I've also seen the whole thing. John has only seen the first couple episodes so far, so I'll let it pass the fact that he's not really into it.
We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye, guys. See you next week. Yeah.